Okay. So my thesis is called Looms, and that's spelled L-U-M-E-S. And it's a shortened version of the word lumens, which is a measurement of light that the military often uses. So this is the final poem of my manuscript, and it's a longer 4-page poem.
All right.
Okay.
Bring it.
Looms. Creosote crusts the air over like peace on the cusp of our noses, and we sniff out how something can so fill an open space, its invisibility cloaked over the dusty crowns of our heads and heads of cactus flowers exploding into color despite or because the sun's looming interrogation lamp is left to burn through corneas. And the paddles of our cactus hands root into the ground, where we lay them down to paw the body's dryness, crying skin flakes out into pallets of brown, lodging dollhouse caves, ants and snakes and groundhogs probing extremities along the soil for comfort, the industry of love. And buzzards slip along the sides of hot-gutted fuselage, C-130s wading into the sky diorama on wires, their orifices suckling information from breasts of thistle milk, from blunt cuts like eyelids, hatching to sunrise. And it is not God dragging night along its axis through flood ruts, but a formation of A-10s, their vapor trails curling into corners of our lips, smooth through night hair reflections wavering in dark mirage, buried from sunlight inside chest cavities, our fleshy empires rising and falling, architecture of cattle bones, elegance pointing out from hardened sand, arthritic fingers fumbling at the spindle of moonlight, its cold flood stalking through landscape. And I salve vernix over the dead bodies, massage it into their faces until the edges soften, until it froths and their muscles drop like wet clay chunks. Dig to my first knuckle, to that undetected body part, the tender spot where the objects are something needed again, working parts parcel to a gruff laugh through a windpipe instrument. Voices dried out in the sun like strips of memories tough on the teeth, but the semblance of sweet that sustains the living, the loved. And Father, you recount the part of your training where you listen to black boxes, recordings of men's voices the moment before they died, like drops of horror distilled into hard gems or softer grunts of uncontrol, as if they were turning in a dream, turning in sleep and pirouetting toward the ground eternally, now their death given purpose again, given to a lesson, a charge, a timeless outward blast radius of unrest. And I don't understand sacrifice, obligation of self as object for higher purpose when our higher purpose stumbles, half dead and face-skinned or full drunk with avarice and charging humans to live. And my skin is laced with hierarchies, the order gnawing slow at human existence, its parasitic automation in which human place is determined by arbitrary dominances, by a twinge in the gut, a putrid story passed down the garbage-filled rivers of generations that tells us we are separate parts. And the man says, "Be still," his whisper engorging itself like a deer tick. He pushes my face into the mud with the expectation that I will make myself small, that my gold hair will tangle around cacti, I'll erode into the soil, that I'll propagate choyas, push weaponized nature from my tender belly. And the moon's face, crisp and bright, beacons us. It guides tired soldiers through the night, through amorous foliage, rasping at lapels, as if trying to rip away a final kiss. And the moon's light shreds on acacia cat claws. The tatters of its skin glide like ash into our eyes, into my mouth, and the man pushes my face into the mud with the expectation that I will be subdued, that my holes will fill with colonies of ants which swarm with a semblance of knowing, a semblance of purpose, the mining of a body, the making of that which is organized and civil, their tiny cities digging into me, pincers carving through my meat. And the moon looms over the glisten of our sweat, spins the pili of our arms into microscopic projections of itself, our hair bending like barrel cactus hooks into each other, our stabs ecstatic, our stabs emitting constellations of blood which spread over us and into the earth until there is no piece of dirt in the world that doesn't contain the abhorrence of our violence. And the moon burns like a ball of molten silver in my throat. It bubbles under my solar plexus. The edges of its scalpel flames excavate themselves out like match strikes, and I alight the outer shell of my body, fraying into petals, their soft cheeks disintegrating the man's hold, his body smoothing his skin down to the thinnest layers, like scraps of cloth on a quilt, like fine phyllo dough crumbling in the wet of my mouth. And the coyotes bewitch the air with rabid yips at the lightness of our bodies, the burning of our bodies, the looming of the new moon which refuses to reflect back anything to us. And the planes pause at their stations in the sky to create temporary constellations to tell the futures of all of us, tucked away and not knowing that we don't wait for tragedy, but that it surrounds us like a faint rotting smell, like the driest heat tugging at the moisture of our tongues. And with our bodies burnt, I present our meat to the scavengers. And the man knows the peace of being undone, his bones picked clean. And the moon looms, runs its fingers gentle over my sinking cheeks, into the alcove of ground encasing the ghost of my body. And the moon looms, sifts through my ingredients, what's left of me. And the moon, and the moon, and the moon, I rise with thee. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And next up is Matt Pelkey.